Now on to Sarah Kane, who will discuss Patrick Dougherty. You're going to love this. He is best known for his sculpture and installations built with sticks and saplings.
Impressive.
It is. Sarah, over to you.
Good morning. Thank you, Paul, for that really interesting presentation on soil. That was very interesting. So yes, today we are focusing on a very unique artist. Patrick Dougherty, he didn't know that he always wanted to be an artist. He was born in Oklahoma in 1945 and was raised in North Carolina. He earned a BA in English from the University of North Carolina in 1967 and a master's in hospital and health administration from the University of Iowa in 1969. And it wasn't until later that he went back to the University of North Carolina to study art history and sculpture. Combining his carpentry skills with his love of nature, Patrick began to learn more about primitive techniques of building and to experiment with tree saplings as construction material. So this slide is really great because of the different shapes, the different spaces that his art could be presented in. We can see his art up in the trees on the left. Then we can see his art on the side of a building. And then we can see his art made to look like a building itself. And from left to right, these pieces are in Denmark, Savannah, Georgia, Dublin, Ireland, and Pennsylvania. His work quickly evolved from single pieces on conventional pedestals to these monumental scale environmental works, which required saplings by the truckloads. Over the last 30 some years, he's built over 300 of these works and become internationally acclaimed. His sculptures have been seen worldwide, from Scotland to Japan to Brussels and all over the United States. These two pieces here are in the US. On the left is titled Simple Pleasures in Maine, and on the right is titled Standby in Raleigh, North Carolina. And we could see the sheer size of these pieces in comparison to the people in the photos. Assisted by a team of volunteers, he builds installations with local branches and saplings that will comprise these massive brush-like spheres inspired in part by existing foliage. Dougherty stated, quote, "For many children now, their first experience with nature involves suburban bushes. So I think these forms will resonate with the young visitors, but my rounded shapes will be somewhat zany, appearing to spin." And we could see especially the twirling branches in this piece on the left, which is titled Sortie de Cave, or Free at Last, and is in Chateaubourg, France. Here you can see again these kind of spinning zany qualities to it, and you can see the surrounding foliage is woven in as well. And here's another example of all of the different volunteers that have worked with him along the way. And this one is even, it almost looks like the tree trunks and then the foliage coming out of the top of it. So I really love looking at these in the snow too. You can see these are the same two pieces. And they look like ancient houses or huts from civilizations of the past. So both of these groupings are from the same piece called Just Around the Corner, located in New Harmony, Indiana. And although many of Dougherty's designs resemble dwellings of various kinds, his perspective really aligns with the work of a gardener as much as an architect, because his creations are not intended to be permanent. After about 2 years or so, his installations will usually start to fade and will ultimately biodegrade. And this ephemeral nature makes these pieces all the more beautiful. So a sense of movement really characterizes most of these organic installations, which have sprung up in public places all over the world. And they feel contemporary and also primordial. It's described as stick work. So these large-scale pieces are essentially constructed through a process of layering. So Dougherty weaves one stick through another, a bit like a bird building a nest. And after the central framework is in place, he'll begin to add gestural lines. And he says that by positioning all of the smaller end of his sticks in one direction, he's able to convey that kind of whirling, wind-blown sensation. So writer Jim Moriarty said Patrick's, quote, internationally renowned art manages to make a permanent impact impact with a temporary footprint. It never strays very far from the notion that one day the wind will blow and this will all be gone, but not before we get a chance to revel in it. And from left to right, these pieces are located in Minnesota, Florida, and Pennsylvania. So like I mentioned, they're all over the US. So here are some more interactive pieces, which is also a key component of his work. Most of Dougherty's works have these open passages that allow visitors and sometimes winds and weather to literally get inside the art. And on the left is a photo of a previous SMA summer intern at one of Dougherty's pieces in the UK. Here, instead of having multiple hut-like structures, we have some more complex buildings. The shapes of his structures are very organic and natural. He often describes his work as, quote, each stick being like a pencil mark in a drawing. The sticks offer a greater sense of texture and movement in each piece. And I love thinking about that, like each sapling, each branch is a brushstroke in his pieces. And finally, this piece is called Close Ties and is located in Dingwall, Scotland. So local sites such as mountains in the distance, colloquial phrases, or even news headlines can serve as a jumping off point of inspiration for his works. This piece in particular is inspired by Scottish basket weavers, which obviously goes hand in hand with his style of weaving branches. So I hope you all enjoyed learning a little bit about Dougherty and seeing his really unique structures. I don't think we've ever highlighted an artist quite like him. And I hope everyone has a happy Earth Day tomorrow. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Sarah. I have to say my favorite piece was the one in the trees. Looks like huts in the trees. It was called Just Around the Corner. But I'll stick with Legos and Tinker Toys.
All right. It looks like it would be just absolutely amazing to kind of actually watch him put one of these together.
Yeah, no kidding. Although it looks like you got to see one firsthand.
Yes. One of the summer interns who I actually happen to know was that was a pretty cool photo, actually.
Yeah, it was very cool.